Unlike the last album, where we had an idea of what the sort of subject matter for the songs was going to be and what we wanted it to sound like, this album really started a couple of years ago when we were asked to write some songs for Kylie Minogue, which she didn't actually record in the end. And the first song that was written on the album is a song called Pandemonium. And so it was quite interesting not writing for ourselves but writing things of someone else singing, and we started writing these much more upbeat, poppy kind of songs than we had for the previous album. And when we carried on writing about a year ago, this sort of mood seemed to carry on as well. And also we were trying to a little bit experiment with melodies and chords at the same time, to take pop music and make it slightly dissonant sometimes, or just use slightly different chord changes and stranger chords on some of the music. But we ended up really writing a group of really quite poppy songs, and therefore we decided we would approach the producers Xenomania, because they seemed to us like the most interesting and imaginative pop producers at the moment.
Well, we like Xenomania because they're very fresh sounding, very pop. And so the sort of songs we've been writing, it seemed like Xenomania were the perfect choice to produce it.
When we come to a producer's, we always arrive with a demo CD of like 14 or 15 finished songs. But we agreed on this to write 3 songs with them. That was part of the deal, and we wanted to do that to see how they worked. Well, the first time we met Brian Higgins, we went down to his house, which is also the Xenomania studio, in a village in Kent. I liked the way he talked about pop music, the way he was interested in really experimenting with pop music, not accepting that there's a defined way you have to go about things. But also he seemed like a very, very, very strong personality, and I think that's quite a good thing in a producer. Chris and I quite like working with someone who very slightly intimidates us. It felt like a good match. But also, you do things maybe you wouldn't already have done, or you wouldn't have done before. Like I was playing the album, it was finished with a friend of mine, and there's a song called The Way It Used to Be, which the melodies are primarily written by Chris, actually, over his Xenomania backing track. But there's a bit that Miranda wrote, "Don't give me all your northern pain," and it so doesn't sound like a Pet Shop Boys melody. In fact, at one point it was going to be a duet. We were going to ask Tina Turner to sing it, because it sounds a bit like Tina to me. And that's good, because it sort of stretches you, brings new things into your vocabulary. And the way they write, which is to finish a whole song and then to start all over again and write different melodies for it and different words, it's very hard work. It's very disciplined, and it's also slightly chaotic, because there's bits of different bits of songs flying around the building, and someone suddenly works on one of the bits and it comes back in. I mean, our way of working would be more superficially much more organised, but that sort of creative chaos and things changing all the time was quite an exhilarating and instructive process. I think the first single, Love Etc., doesn't sound like any... somehow manages to sound like typical Pet Shop Boys without sounding like any record ever made before. And I think it's because it's very much a co-write with Xenomania. The opening melody is written by Miranda Cooper. And it's a beautiful melody. I don't think to me sounds like a Pet Shop Boys melody. The sort of chanty thing is a bit like maybe something we've done before. But it's a very unusual record structurally as well. It's got different bits keep coming in and out. And we said in an interview that it was a post-lifestyle anthem, which was someone actually used that phrase when describing it to us, and we liked it, because the song is really saying, like the Beatles did, all you need is love. It's saying that life isn't just about wealth and shopping.
Xenomania played us a lot of backing tracks, and they also had these other ones that they were sort of keeping back for themselves, that Brian and Miranda were keeping back for themselves. They were going to do sort of their own dance project, and there was one backing track in particular that we both really liked, and we weren't getting offered that one. And in the end, Neil plucked up the courage to say, "Oh, what about that one?" And so
Well, Chris kept saying to me in the car on the way to the studio in the morning,
We're not getting the best one.
We're not getting the best one. I want the one with the swing one. I said I couldn't even remember it, to be honest. And I said, well, you said, dink, dink. I said, oh yeah, it is good, that, isn't it? I said, right, I'll ask Brian. Brian, can we just hear that swing one again? Does it go again? He goes, oh, this one. So yeah, we want that one. And he said, that's for Miranda and I's project, that. And he said, well, I just think it's like an obvious hit, and we're not sure we've written an obvious hit yet. Anyway, they very generously handed over the backing track, and we started working.
Actually, this time, with this album, it's different, because normally what we do is we make the album, and then we all talk about what should be the first single. On this occasion, Love Etc. was always going to be the first single, before we'd even finished the album.
And I think the reason for that is that Brian Higgins determined from the moment we got some with it as a song that it was the most commercial thing on the album.